before we kick it off, so what we're going to do over the next 30 minutes is we're going to have sort of a rapid fire presentation of a few unique tools that are being developed by some other universities, by UK, by some other companies that we believe or that are being used to assist in some of this level of engagement. Really quick, before we get going, one show of hands of people who track, especially within the alumni services groups or the philanthropy groups, people who track alumni, universities that track alumni as entrepreneurs. I saw one, the BYU, I think that Tanya showed. They have a list of entrepreneurial alumni, and I guess South Florida's the Fast 56. They obviously track, alumni that are founders of companies. Does anyone else do that here? Okay.
Not here. LSU has they do like a top 100.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have
Yeah, neat. That's neat. I mean, so we use the Sales Navigator, as Tanya mentioned, to kind of find founders, or at least people who mentioned that they were a founder in their LinkedIn or otherwise. Okay, let me get going. I'm going to introduce, I think Jacqui Greene from our office is going to start us off with our first rapid fire presentation.
I hate microphones, so you'll have to excuse me. You've heard a couple of the people on the last panel talk about several of the ways we got here. We actually started conversations when I first started here, probably were happening before I got here last March of 2018. We were going to do a tech showcase before our annual Palooza event. And that was in order to engage alumni, but have our UK startups actually present their technologies to our alumni. Tanya, as you've heard, is going to be president of the Alumni Association. She has a long history with the Alumni Association. She brought in that connection with Witt, who will be talking to us after my presentation about his role in philanthropy and alumni. We brought them in, him and his team, and we started talking about how we could get alumni engaged with our technology commercialization. What happened is we ended up at a point changing the name of the event to the UK Entrepreneur Showcase, because we decided not just to have our UK startups present, but we also asked a couple of alumni entrepreneurs to present, and we did student researchers too. So we brought in various factions from the university to come and present. We invited alumni, we invited administrators, college deans. We had around 80 people show up for our event. And we were able to really connect our UK startup people with our alumni, and then we also had the students who were able to do that as well. So there were a lot of connections that were made at this event after the presentations happened. This is our speakers that we had. We had three UK startups, 2 alumni entrepreneurs came in, and then we had 5 student researchers, and we got to hear what they were doing. And some of the comments that happened, we had a lot of people who said they really enjoyed the event because it gave them an opportunity to see what was going on this campus, to learn what not only the students are doing, but what the alumni were doing, and then what our faculty researchers are doing. During surveys, this is maybe the first time I've done so many event surveys, but this is the first time I've ever had all of our survey respondents say they were very satisfied with an event and thought the event was valuable. Normally you get a few outliers at least that have some issues, but everyone found the event very valuable because they were able to find out what was going on and make those connections. We actually had one of our alumni entrepreneurs connect with one of our UK startup, so they're having conversations now about how their work may impact with one another, and then just different technologies able to see how best they can work together on the campus. So we did learn a few things during the event. It was very successful, we felt, but we found out a few things that it would probably be better to have a more standard size. We're going to do 3 entrepreneurs 3 UK startups and 3 student researchers next year, and we're actually in the process of planning for that event already. We have people already interested in speaking, and our alumni entrepreneurs are excited about potentially just coming back and being a part of the event. So probably the best thing about this event is it was a way to connect both the philanthropy side, the alumni side, our tech commercialization side, by bringing all these people together in the same room, and also getting information out there about how things are happening. And we actually videotaped the event. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see snippets from that if you want to see how it works. And I also put one of our programs on the table, just so you could see the caliber of speakers we had, including, you heard that former UK President Lee Todd was mentioned. We actually created an award that we gave to him, and we'll be giving that out every year to an alumni entrepreneur. And he actually was our keynote speaker during the event, so we were able to engage in many different ways and work with Don and his team and the Alumni Association to really make a connection there and be able to work on other areas that we can collaborate on. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Don Witt from Philanthropy, and he'll talk about his hybrid role doing alumni and philanthropy.
Jacqui, thank you very much. It's really an honor for me to be here. I know I met some of you last night at dinner, but I think this is an incredible opportunity for me to talk a little bit about how I envision and how our office envisions the Philanthropy Office, the world of the UK Alumni Association, and the Office of Technology Commercialization. How are we working together? And maybe I'm a little naive because I'm actually fairly new in this role, but I've kept hearing things like, how are you all working together? Who is the Alumni Association? What is OTC? And I keep thinking, why are these questions even there? Why don't these things naturally coexist? Because I think they do naturally fit together. And maybe before I go over some of the points I'm going to talk about, I think it's important to know a little bit about my perspective and where I come from. I have a long history here at the University of Kentucky, very long. I've worked with 5 different presidents, and we've only had 12 presidents in the history of UK. So, at the Entrepreneur Showcase, one of our students that we featured said it must have been some of the research drugs that they've been giving to me to help preserve me to look this decent. So anyway, with working with the 5 presidents, it afforded me an incredible opportunity to see each of those individuals' vision, their strategy, and their mission. Sometimes the same, sometimes different, but it helped me to evolve and adapt in different ways. And I think for all of us, in order for us to stay relevant, you have to evolve, you have to adapt. Because with each administration that comes in, they have different wishes, different strategies. And so you have to kind of mirror that in different ways. I also have the good fortune of having a long tenure here at the university. I'm a native Lexingtonian. I went to UK. I didn't want to go anywhere else for my education. And I find myself here now 36 years later, still working here. And so I think I was maybe sort of thinking about this idea of maybe retiring. I was the associate provost for enrollment here at UK. I was also the university registrar. I was also the director of admissions. I had the good fortune of hiring Jill Smith at one point. And so all of this stuff sort of gave me an incredible background about the history of UK and really how to navigate this place. And so when this opportunity was presented with the Kentucky CAN, our $2.1 billion capital campaign, they had a new assistant vice president for philanthropy position created. And a new position is exciting, but it can also be challenging. I view it as an incredible opportunity and challenge. So that's how I arrived in this new role. And I've been doing that for about a year and a half now. And so it has sort of been my mission and my focus to see how do we really marry things together. So while I'm technically in philanthropy, philanthropy is sort of the home for the UK Alumni Association, so I'm also in the UK Alumni Association as well. I'm also a graduate of UK. If you think about the hats that I've worn, I was the university registrar for many, many years. So my name is literally on thousands and thousands of diplomas. Also, Director of Admissions, I was the person also overseeing all financial aid and scholarships. My name is literally on lots of full-ride scholarships that many successful people received when they were a student here. I think you get the picture quickly about why it makes sense that maybe I'm in philanthropy now. Because I can utilize those connections and call up that person and say, remember when you got that full-ride scholarship? No, that's not the way I would do it. So the way I view philanthropy, a person that contributes their service, their expertise, their tech knowledge, whatever it may be, all the way to the person that maybe gives us $24 million, which we have those folks, they're equally important in my mind. And so I come at it from this perspective that all this blends together in a very holistic way. So my position, and then Ellie Goodman, who's here, Ellie Wade, there's just two of us right now. We are sort of hybrid positions, if you will. So I wear a philanthropy hat, but I also wear an alumni association hat. And I think those things go hand in glove. I think they should. And so as I've heard about, well, maybe these offices, how do you work together? I question how you can't work together. You have to work together. So some of the things I've listed here, just quickly, you've heard of some of these, but it just shows you how we're trying to infusing ourselves in different things. So with these hybrid positions, we know that with the Alumni Association, we have grad salute and we have grad gathering. These are celebrations that we have each year, multiple times a year for our students that are graduating. So we are there, philanthropies at all those celebrations so that we can really plant that seed of giving back. One thing that's not on this list that's important, we've also established in our new Gatton Student Center, one of the first true centers for student philanthropy that's 100% student run. And so we know that a lot of institutions have call centers and things like that, and they'll say, well, we have a center for student philanthropy. We have a call center too, that's separate. We actually have a center for philanthropy, really working in partnership with our philanthropy office. Also, you heard Jill mention Welcome to Your City. That was a great way for us to engage our young alumni, but others in the community. And so I know we started those last year, and our office helped to support those. So just being there to support the Alumni Association. You heard Jill also mention Alumni Career Services, and I keep hearing this from the Alumni Board, I hear it from our president, I hear it from parents, I hear it from students. Career Services, terribly, terribly important. And I think it's really an unmined resource out there for us. Yes, we've had some great success. We're expanding our staff, we've been successful with that, but we're really trying to build that out so we can take advantage of our alums who are doing great things, whether it be mentoring and shadowing, things like that, that we want to build on. So that's something that is underway. One thing that actually comes out of the UK Alumni Association that I'm very proud of, and also with our Alumni Career Services, is the UK Central Kentucky Job Club. And it has won a national award this past year. And what it is, it's the UK Alumni Association, our Alumni Career Services folks, along with University Extension, which is in our College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, and also with UK Human Resources. We host this twice a month, and it's been one of the most incredible things I've actually been a part of. And what it is, we will have speakers, of course, but we invite folks to this meeting twice a month who are either in a position looking to transition and take their skills elsewhere, or maybe it's someone that unfortunately has just lost their position. And so it's a very humbling atmosphere, but it's also a very supportive atmosphere. And what we do with each of those meetings, we will have folks that have been attending the job clubs, we will have them come back and tell their success stories and say, guess what? I got that interview, and the skills you taught me, or the things you taught me about how to update my LinkedIn profile, or how to change my resume, that really helped me open that door for that interview. Then they can even come back and say, guess what? I got that position. So I hate to say it's like a support group because that sounds wrong, but it's very much a very positive atmosphere for people that really are in need of a career change or position. So that's been something that's really positively support. Alumni Career Services Network, that's a professional organization that Ellie and I are part of, along with our Alumni Career Services. And so that's something, just another way for us to support this effort. Community and corporate partnerships. I think Susan said this, and I think this is something you already know. You have to take advantage of those connections. I know I wouldn't be standing here today were it not for incredible faculty here at UK or folks that kind of took me under their wing, and I think it's okay to use connections. So our President Eli Capilouto, when he was in college, his college roommate was a gentleman named Mr. Bayer, who this is down in Birmingham, Alabama. That was his college roommate. He helped start a very, very successful corporation in property building. And so one of the CEOs of Bear Properties was here looking at perhaps building a retail establishment here in Lexington. That CEO also happened to have her daughter with her, who happened to be a senior in high school, who happened to meet me. And so now, just this year, she graduated. She came to UK and graduated. So that was kind of a cool connection. But what's important is that the summit at Fritz Farm is what Bear Properties has built here. And it's sort of a very nice open-air concept shopping district. A lot of UK alums actually are established in the summit. And so what we've done, I've partnered with those alums to say, would you like to host an alum gathering at a low, low cost? And they say yes. They like that because it's good for the summit. It's good to get folks out there. And so I've worked with many offices on our campus to really collaborate. It's been very, very positive. Next thing, the Kentucky Can Capital Campaign. I mentioned that. That's our largest campaign in UK's history at $2.1 billion. I'm happy to say that we're already just over halfway to that goal, so very, very positive. It takes a team effort. We are blessed to have an incredible team with that. The one thing that we've been supporting with that, we had a huge big kickoff with the campaign here in our Gatton Student Center, and if you've not had a chance to see the brand new Gatton Student Center, please do so. That is another big donor that actually named that center, and it's beautiful. It's really represented our campus very, very well. But we had our big kickoff there in the Student Center, and then we've had regional campaign events in different locations. So Northern Kentucky, Louisville, we had one in Atlanta, and then just last weekend in Chicago. And those have been tremendously successful. And that's definitely a team effort from the UK Alumni Association and the UK Philanthropy offices, and also all the colleges that have their own philanthropy officers too. They support these too. So a great team effort. And then new student scholarships. When I put on my philanthropy hat, it's really interesting when you think about, how do you start a scholarship? And I had to mention this because it's something I'm very proud of. Our most recent Rhodes Scholar, Hadil Abdallah, she just graduated this May. She'll be going to Oxford, of course, in the fall. She's a Muslim student here on campus, and she came to me. We didn't really know each other prior, but she said, the university's been good to me, and how can I give back to the University of Kentucky? And she said, someone said that maybe you could help me. And so I said, this is a really cool opportunity. Let's see about maybe establishing a scholarship. So to this date, or up to this point, we now have over 200 individuals that have contributed to this scholarship, and so we'll be giving our first, it's called the Bilal ibn Rabah Scholarship. We'll be giving that scholarship to deserving students that are in financial need this coming fall. So that's very, very successful. What's cool about that too, the vast majority of the folks that contributed, we have a lot of folks that are physicians in our healthcare area. They're at the highest level of wealth when I look. This was the first time they had contributed to anything on campus. I think it resonates with some of the points Susan made and others. If you connect with something that they're passionate about, they will give. And so this is something that I'm very, very proud of. And so what's cool about this too, this is something that we're going to continue to build. We already have a transition plan. The deal, of course, will be going to Oxford this fall, but we're going to have another student here on campus helping to keep this going. And so we already have people in the community that are very excited. What was really cool about this, and I think it speaks well to why philanthropy, alumni associations, and technology transfer centers, why we must really collaborate. When we had the event for the Bilal Scholarship, we had the mayor of Lexington came, the president came, our provost came, the vice mayor came, people from the mosque came, we had students there, we had physicians from healthcare. And I had several folks tell me this was the first time that they had been to an event where so many different constituencies were represented, but for an incredible single cause. And so I think that's really why we're all here today, to see how do we really collaborate in meaningful ways. So that's the UK Student Scholarship. That's one of them I've worked on. And then UK Corporate Partners Committee, that's something I'll just talk about quickly. We have a Corporate Partners Committee here on campus that I've just been asked to be a part of. And what we're doing with that, we're trying to get some momentum with this group. We're looking at how can we partner with a vendor to really showcase micro internships. And so we know that our alums out there are very busy. Our students are very busy. And when you hear mentoring and shadowing, those are actually kind of becoming kind of dated terms, we're finding out, and people kind of roll their eyes and like, I'm busy, I don't have time for that. So we're moving towards something that's a little bit more current, and they're micro internships. where we're going to be working with alums and with corporations that maybe have projects that a UK student can work on. It might be for 40 hours. It might be for just a month. They're paid for these. They're all paid, and so we're working on the details of that right now. So that's a little bit about who I am. It's a little bit about our hybrid positions. It's been really a great thing to work with Tim and Tanya and Susan and with Jill and with Eric and all the folks here that represent that. I know we have some folks also here, Jessica and Tom, folks from our philanthropy side. So it's really been great to be a part of that family. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Tom. I think our next, yes, is Peter here? Yes. Peter's going to talk to us about a scouting and research tool to find those people in research.
I am, thank you. My name is Peter Nortwick. I'm from Wellspring. We're a company in Chicago. Thanks, Ian, for having us. Ian and our company partner on a bunch of different things. We'll talk about the XR platform in just a little bit, so I'll save that for him. But I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm here and who we are, for those of you who may not know. We are a software company founded at Carnegie Mellon in 2003, spun out in 2008, founded within the tech transfer office at CMU. So go tech transfer, go ventures. Moved to Chicago in 2011. I joined in 2016. And we are software providers to all of the sort of parties in this room, so whether it's tech transfer, corporate alumni foundation relations, whatever it might be. We work with sort of everybody in this room in some meaningful way. Today, I'm going to talk about one of our tools specifically, but just so you know a little bit more about us, the sort of obligatory logo dump of people who we work with so that you know we're a real company. Many of the organizations we work with are in the room today, so a number of friendly faces in the room. And as well, anybody involved with the XOR are also an indirect client as well. But we work in a number of different spaces. Obviously, TTOs around the world, government agencies, corporations, tech scouting organizations. And I say all this simply because we work with sort of every part of this vast ecosystem of innovation, whether it's from the very front end of a researcher submitting a disclosure, all the way through to sort of the licensing person of the company, and all the various steps in between, the startups coming out of the universities, licensing the technologies out of the TTOs. Again, we've got sort of our tentacles in every part of this crazy ecosystem. So the tool I'm going to talk about today is a search tool, right? To find these people who you want to engage with, whether it's an alumni who's gone to become a researcher somewhere else, become an entrepreneur, a tech transfer officer looking for that next corporate partner, a corporate foundation relations person looking for that next corporate grant, corporate gift. That's what our tool helps to enable. So pulling from a wide variety of data sources, again, public proprietary. Patents don't always speak the whole picture, so we try to make a very rich data set by bringing a lot of disparate data sources that you're able to use in order to find these people. So the first thing we talk about is sort of the power of a network. So we're at the OVALS conference, obviously. Ian's going to talk about networks when it comes to XOR. But one of the things we did with the state of Michigan is put together a network where all of the public universities in Michigan are able to showcase their research output. So this is something you can direct both to your alumni, to potential corporate partners, to researchers internally, and say, hey, who else within the state of Michigan might you want to work with, to develop this idea that you are working on and that grant money you've received. Again, many of these universities within the state of Michigan are directing their alumni to this via the alumni foundation website, via their transfer website, via their philanthropy websites to say, hey, this is the cool stuff we're doing, not only for our university, but also for our broader economic ecosystem. And obviously this then drills down to the universities themselves. Probably every school in here has one of these pages in our site. If you want more information on how to get to it, I can give it to you. I can send these slides out later as well. But again, this is a way to show the awesome stuff that your schools are doing from a research standpoint. So whether that's ventures coming out, licensing opportunities, clinical trials, patents you're publishing, research grants you're receiving, you want those corporate partners, you want those alumni to say, wow, this is why I should go back and support the University of Michigan, biased my alma mater, or why I should support UKY, Louisville, so on and so forth. If you want to know what has happened in our university that I don't clinical trials that the school's been a part of that you just don't know about, but you think might be interesting to research. You have the ability to search within your own institution. So what do we know, or what do we know that I don't know that we know, and how can this be valuable for my work? So again, if you're looking for ways to engage corporate partners, foundations, alumni, really being able to say, you know what, I'm a deep subject matter expert in this aspect of the university, but there's a lot of things going on that I might not see. And again, that's where having all these different data sources really can come in handy, because in a tech transfer office, you may not know about a clinical trial that's happening, right? It's just the nature of the beast, even if they're next door. The grants, management office might not always tell you the grants you're receiving. So really helpful to be able to look at that and say, oh man, we do have something that this corporate partner might care about, or this alumni you want to try to engage with may actually want to be involved with. Obviously, again, going along the lines of what do we know and who do we know it with, being able to see who you work with from both the corporate perspective and between researchers. So, you may have an alumni out there who's a corporate researcher advisor, and you may not know that you've ever worked with them in any way. This will enable you to find that out. Or you may not know that you've worked with a company or a startup already in a meaningful way. Again, because there's so many different ways that the university's out there working, the tech transfer and philanthropy just aren't always privy to know. And then again, showing how our researchers are collaborating, again, both internally and externally. So how are our researchers working together now, and how are they working externally that we may not know? Again, within the offices represented in the room today. So finally, I would be remiss not to show you how simple it is to use. You can literally go to search.wellspringsoftware.net today and run a couple searches and get a feel for it. I will be here all day. If you're interested in learning more, seeing a demo, asking me what the hell I'm doing here, I'm happy to answer those questions. But I think the purpose of me being here is, one, to support Ian and the work we do with him and the XOR platform in the UK office, as well as just to show that these kinds of tools are out there. It doesn't have to be hitting a phone book or Googling or even SalesNav, which is a great tool. I use it. There are other ways to find these people and engage these people. So with that, I'll stop, and feel free to find me any day, anytime throughout the rest of the day.
Thanks, Peter.
Right.
So, Peter, that's basically a tool that a research enterprise, VPR's office, or a tech transfer office, or even an alumni association could adopt. If you wanted, let's say we wanted to show our alumni, the in-depth, the stuff we might do in a certain space to aggregate in that. Yeah, that's great. I know Barron in our office is working on doing that kind of like analytics showcasing of that type of information to alumni. This is a neat tool to help do that.
For sure. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Next in our continued rapid fire presentations is my good friend Tim Schigel, who's going to come up and talk a little bit about the fire programs, if you call it.
Thank you, Ian. So Tim Schigel, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and thanks again Ian, for having me here. And I've been impressed with what you've done with the OVAL conference and network. When Ian and I connected about 18 months ago or so, I was really impressed. I think we kind of shared the same passion for wanting to unlock all the natural resources and technology that we have in our area. Many of us choose to live here. We grew up here or choose to live here. We know we have so much potential that's still yet untapped. And for a little bit of background, the perspective that I have at this is I'm Ohio native, went to Case Western Reserve, electrical engineering degree. I got into venture capital in 1998, so I've been in venture for quite a bit. Started an internet company called Share This. So whenever you share something on the internet, you see the little sharing tools. I created those. That's out in Palo Alto. I've had a West Coast presence most of my career. So I see and compare and contrast what happens here versus out there. The last few years, if anybody's heard of Centrifuge in Cincinnati, I helped start Centrifuge and ran the fund of funds. I've invested in about 20 early stage venture funds, trying to pull them into the region. And as a result of that, have talked to a lot of other regions around the country who are trying to figure out the same thing in terms of improving the entrepreneurship in their ecosystems. Okay, and there are a couple of insights that came out of that. So we've had a big impact. I think there's still a lot more to do. But what we found was most people think that capital is a problem. I talked to a lot of schools and regions. They say, well, we don't have enough capital. I think that's a myth. That's not true. what you have to understand is the first principle is capital follows growth, right? And so we were able to get startups funded by top tier West Coast, East Coast venture capitalists. They'll get on a plane for something that's growing, right? But if it's not growing, they won't. So you might have relationships with the university and you ask the VCs to come in and they'd be happy to come in and visit with you if you're gonna invest in their fund. But you try to get them to come in to visit a startup and all of a sudden their schedule's a little busy, right? Some of us may have experienced that. So we need that growth. And so what I found though was that we do have a big gap, which is many parts of the country are missing hypergrowth leaders. People that have led companies that have made it from 0 to 10 million and beyond. 10 million is kind of a big milestone number. In Silicon Valley, about 35% of all venture-backed founders have previously been in a hypergrowth company. So they know what it feels like, they know what it looks like to grow like that. In places like this region, it's under 5%. Right? And so we also know that we have this, again, tremendous assets and IP in the universities that's under leverage. And we say, well, how can we be more like Stanford or MIT? And I do a lot with both of those universities. And what I found is their model is different for commercialization. They have there's what I'll call a pull model versus a push model. Half the time, Stanford doesn't even know what they have. All right? The difference is they're surrounded by window shoppers. Right? The window shoppers are these hypergrowth entrepreneurs that know how to raise money. They know how to get the money. And they say, wow, that lab has some pretty cool stuff in it. I'm going to go put together $5 million and I'm going to pull it out. And the tech transfer tries to catch up. And that's literally how it happens. In other parts of the country, like here, we try to push it out. So it's more supply driven instead of demand driven. And the challenge with that is that you may not have the hypergrowth leader, and you may not have the funding, which is the hard part. The tech transfer, as much as people like to complain about tech transfer sometimes, the hard part is raising money, right? So if you can solve that, the leadership and the money problem, I think more opportunities will start to flow. So I launched 2 years ago now, Refinery Ventures, early stage venture fund. And part of that fund activity is to focus on this problem. So we've made 6 investments so far, 3 in Ohio, 1 here in Kentucky, fast growing company. It's about $1 million in revenue when we invested, about $8 million today in about 2 years here in Lexington. Company in San Francisco and another one in Charleston, South Carolina. And but what we want to do is supplement that with this working title is FIRE program, which stands for Founders and Residents, Founder and Residents Experience. To pull those boomerangs back, the people that went to UK or went to Ohio State or where have you, and they're maybe out on the coast working for a hypergrowth company, and they may or may not have been a founder before, but they're likely to be a founder. And they're looking for a platform to come and explore, do some window shopping, if you will, and have an opportunity to kind of go on a shopping spree. Or we'll fund it. Like, we qualify the candidate, we qualify the leader, and then give them a blank check, if you will, and say, if you find something great in the UK, we're funding it. Because we're counting on you as a leader. So it's more of a leader first approach. So we did a test last year, we put together an advisory board that Ian's on, along with other people like him, VPs of innovation at Carnegie Mellon and Notre Dame and Stanford, Texas, Texas A&M. And we did a test. We're using one of our portfolio companies actually that uses AI for recruiting. We have about 30,000 different data sources. We found about 100 people that we think match the profile we're looking for. Over 20% responded. We talked to them. In one case, this one gentleman reached out to, he's out in San Francisco. He went to Carnegie Mellon, PhD, and he has worked for 2 of the most successful companies in synthetic biology. And so I talked to him, he said, oh, this would be great, I'm thinking about doing my next thing. I told him how the program might work. And I asked him though, his accent was a little different. And I said, well, where did you grow up? And he said he grew up in Spain, lived in different places, went to Carnegie Mellon, PhD, then moved out to California. So I go to ask him the last question, which is, would you be willing to move to Pittsburgh? Because he's doing so well in San Francisco. And I figured, probably not. And he said, well, funny you should ask that. My wife and I met at Carnegie Mellon. She's got her PhD. We have a young daughter. There's no way we're raising our kid in San Francisco. We're looking for a reason to get back. who want to go back there. He didn't grow up in Pittsburgh, but he appreciated and wants to go back. Holy smokes, right? So if we can find more of those, I think we're onto something. So, you know, the key with this is it's about the quality, not quantity, right? I don't want to go get 100 of those people. I want to get 3, right? Because the leaders, you look at some of the names, some of your big donors, right? One leader leading a successful company has 1,000x kind of potential and impact on the community. And so we're trying to work together to identify these leaders, fund them, support them with universities and the communities to help them launch super successful companies. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
So that story about Carnegie Mellon, right, is something that myself and a number of other tech transfer offices are trying to replicate, right? That's one of the things that we're trying to create in scale, right, is how to identify those people that might have graduated from the UK, exist somewhere on the coast, have run a business unit at a med device company in Boston, but want to get back, right? And they don't want to give back, they want to give back. And actually come back, and they're looking for a good reason to do it. And you know, being the founder or the CEO of a startup might be one great way to do it. So it's a really, really interesting program. I'm going to fast forward because we're already behind on time to talk really quickly about one additional program that we have built that we call Executives on Roster. We've partnered with a number of universities here in this room. There are now 30 universities involved in this project. And effectively, it's 30 universities that have gotten together and said, that story that Tim just told, we want to do that at scale. We want to try to develop a tool that helps us find those people in our alumni networks and show them everything we have that they could currently take over if they wanted to come back and do that. So we did. It took us about a year. When we did it with a group, all the OVALS universities that are here worked on this on behalf of the Midwest, and then we had a group of Southeast universities, the SEC schools that worked on a Southeast platform. We partnered with Wellspring, Peter's company, to develop an online software platform that is just a marketplace for recruiting experienced entrepreneurial talent that are serial entrepreneur types that have raised money, run companies, and, by the way, have indicated an interest proactively in doing it again. And they're looking for sort of their next opportunity. So we built this online marketplace. Took us a while to do that. We designed it, we built a governance document, and then we started to fill it. And so today, we have a Midwest XOR and a Southeast XOR. These are some of, almost all the universities that are involved. I think there's an additional 4 or 5 now that you don't see pictured here. We launched it last fall. We're currently in a pilot period. We have over 70 entrepreneurs that have been qualified. Most of these entrepreneurs are your alums and our alums. But we're looking to fill it more. And what we're asking, though, is concerted efforts and partnerships with our alumni services groups, with our philanthropy groups, to help make some of these connections. If you're looking to find new ways to engage those people, so I mentioned UK has 10,000 alums on coasts or in other places. Let's find another 5 to 10 of those people that would love to take over one of our startups and maybe bring them back to Lexington to do that. And so that's what this platform is about. We've got about 56 startups in the platform today that are all university spin-out startups from those 30 universities. And here's what the platform looks like. It's a really neat, sort of intuitive platform. You can search for startups by background, technology, vertical, a few other filters. But then you can also, and here's an example of the UK. I think we have 10 startups in the platform today. This is what a page of sort of each startup has its own profile page. It's got a pitch deck that talks about the business, the technology that's been developed, the patents that we have filed. Really, really neat platform. And we're excited, actually, 2 weeks ago, we announced a match. It was an entrepreneur that had been put in the Southeast platform by Texas A&M, actually. But our spin-out startup from UK has matched with them, and they're going to work together now, which is really, really sort of exciting, and what we want to just proliferate and do again. And I think the other piece here is that we're not just looking at UK alums to help take over some of our startups. We're actually combining our networks to do some of this too, which, by the way, is really, really lucrative to those entrepreneurs because it consolidates the pipeline of opportunities for them. And here's what sort of an entrepreneur profile page looks like. You can search for them based on their background, what their interests are, have they raised money, and things like that. And so I mentioned the Midwest and Southeast platform. We're also working on a West XOR platform. Peter and I have been helping to develop out there, which is being championed by none other than Fletcher's University of Arizona. Tech Launch is launching a 13 university or more, actually 19 universities were involved in that in the West to do this as well regionally. Okay, so we're a few minutes behind. I tried to catch us up there. I know we're about 10 minutes behind, but if our next panel could come up here, and the next conversation is going to focus on philanthropy perspective and tech transfer perspective and the intersection thereof. So if our panelists can come up, and we can take this panel for an additional 10 minutes forward. I don't want to cut us on time, Karen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. So I'm the moderator, Karen White. If you look at my title, it says Interim Executive Director of the Technology Transfer Office at Indiana University. I actually have a real job there. I actually have been working with Indiana University since 2012 with the Vice Chancellor for Research Office, and my role was to help support the technology transfer function in a variety of ways from inside the university, because we had an external corporation to manage technology transfer. And so I was from the inside helping them accomplish some of their goals. They were reorganized into the university structure now. So when we had a recent retirement of our director, Bill Brizard, they asked me to step in and be the interim director at the same time as I'm doing my other job. So this is going to be fun. And I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves and a little bit about their background. My background is in tech transfer primarily since 1995 at several different universities, including Purdue University, until I took the job in 2012 in Indiana. And I wound up here because Tanya invited me. And this is actually a topic that when she told me what the topic was, a lot of these things I'm like, well, yeah, what can they tell me after 20-something years of doing this? But this topic is one that I don't know a lot about, so I'm loving to hear some of this stuff. And my mom always told me to remember I'm not always the smartest one in the room. And I take that one step further, and I try to appear in rooms where I think a lot of people are smarter than me. So, and since I knew Tanya was one of those people, then I was just really excited to come here because I'm sure she was inviting a whole lot of other smart people too. So, and I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves now.
Karen, thank you. And since Ian mentioned that we're running a little bit behind, and I've already introduced myself prior, I'm going to keep it short. Don Witt, Assistant Vice President for Philanthropy.
Geoffrey, Director of Tech Transfer at the University of Cincinnati. Much like Karen, my career has been in tech transfer. So I've been at UC now, started as an extern and intern in January 2006. And much like Karen, I'm really interested to learn how we can better engage our alumni. It's something we currently do poorly, but are looking to expand. We've recognized that alumni are a strong base for our entrepreneurs, as well as opportunities to build out one of our current charges, which is building out the startup ecosystem in the city of Cincinnati. It's not just going to come from university startups, it's going to come from students who graduated and got their next big idea.
I'm Jessica Koenigsknecht-Talboo. I am with the Office of Philanthropy here at UK. I am the Director of Foundation and Corporate Philanthropy. I've been at UK for about 4.5 years. Before I was here, I was at Washington University in St. Louis, where I was doing corporate foundation relations, supporting the School of Medicine there. Before that, I was a postdoc in neurology doing Alzheimer's disease research. So I'm a trained scientist turned philanthropy officer. So a little bit unique perspective there. But I feel that helps me. It gives me the advantage of understanding kind of multiple sides of this. I can talk to the faculty and understand what they're going through. I lived in the lab, I get it. I understand they're not always great with the deadlines that we work on with foundations and corporations. After having been in the lab and doing those experiments that may not always work the first time. So basically my role here is trying to develop relationships. A lot of times that's internal and a lot of times that's external to the university. And how can we strengthen relationships internally to work together better, and how do we strengthen relationships with our external partners, whether it's foundations or corporations, to understand how they want to work with the university and then help them navigate the university to connect them to the right people.
I also don't need a microphone.
I would suggest you use it, please, because they are recording.
Oh, they're recording? All right.
And the quality of the audio is more consistent if
It'll
you
be
all use
super
it.
loud. So I'm James Zanowitz, Chief Business Officer for Tulane University. Now I started with the School of Medicine or Primate Center, now work with the School of Science and Engineering as well. Where what we're doing is business development the way that a company would do it, but from inside the university out. It's a little different than most places. We're on the road. It's like a development or advancement office 80-ish% of the time. One-on-one meetings with companies and investors, figuring out what their needs are across the spectrum, and that can be in the traditional ways of research or tech transfer, but also key opinion leaders, patient populations, animal models, specialized resources, people who need to know each other in our network even if we're not involved, just trying to bring value so that they see us as the partner of choice. And for those of you, there are several people who I've worked with here because I started the office down the road at Louisville in 2000.
Good morning, my name is Tom Barker. Thanks for Ian, I'm sure I really appreciate his leadership in bringing us all together. This is a treat for me. You can see above a long title, Associate General Counsel, Executive Director of our Gift and Estate Planning Program. I'm an estate planning attorney by background and work closely with our Vice President for Philanthropy team associated with our Principal Gifts Program and our President. It's a real honor and humbling experience, obviously, for me to work with gifts of $5 million and more. They make a significant impact on this campus. You're standing in a facility largely funded by philanthropy. I look forward to talking maybe perhaps a little bit more about that. And just a real treat for me to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to kick things off with a couple of questions to people, but I do encourage you, if we, and I encourage the panel here to be a little interactive. Ask if you have any, like some, more details about, something they're talking about, especially since we're running short of time. Maybe the more details isn't necessary, but I'm going to start out with, there's three of us, I guess, technically from tech transfer on this, and the other three are, would you call yourselves alumni, philanthropy, or both? And one of the things that I found interesting is we were trying to find someone to represent besides the tech transfer, and they said, well, is anyone from your university? I'm like, I don't know. Okay. Okay, just curiosity. Anybody in here Indiana University alumni? Yay! Yeah, okay, so basically, I even tried to call the Alumni Association to ask some people, and they're like, what? So I guess I'm going to start off with Geoffrey. Do you have that kind of relationship? And we had a call and we talked about some different experiences that different ones of us have had working either with students or alumni or whatever. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your experience from the side of tech transfer and how these connections either are or are not working.
So right now we do not. We are looking at it very closely. The Office of Innovation the Tech Transfer Group about a year and a half ago moved out of the Office of Research into the new Office of Innovation at the university. The part of a larger initiative, which also includes, we, in the 80s, inherited and acquired, not sure how, a Sears building, which about 4 years ago we started the process of converting it into our innovation hub. So the culmination of that was last October when the grand opening, which recognized the broader vision of the Office of Innovation, which has not quite figured out. I mean, we're still working through how that would engage with both the alumni network and with our foundation. I think many of us have had the horror stories in tech transfer. We've been there long enough of stepping on the toes and hearing others stepping on the toes of the activities of the foundation. I've had large corporations threaten gifts over master agreements that we were negotiating. They've used that in the past, and that's always part of the barrier of our metrics and their metrics. And even though the giving that goes on with the foundation is very different, from it's not giving, it's investment, it's a totally different mindset in tech transfer, but that making sure our relationships are strong is something that I'm trying to learn. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm here.
Well, I like that comment about threatening a major gift. So maybe Tom or Jessica. Let's talk about it from the philanthropy point of view.
No doubt, we're all, one of the thoughts I wanted to sort of share with us is, to the extent this is a response to your question, is the level of collaboration that must, take place between the work that we're doing and the work in the corporate and foundation relations tech transfer place. We're sitting in Woodward Hall. Let me welcome you to Woodward Hall. Mr. Woodward is a successful entrepreneur. He and his father used to own something called record stores. You used to go to a place and you would buy this thing, right? And you'd stick it into a device and play music. I don't know that Mr. Woodward's father envisioned that someone would be recording me perhaps with something called a telephone. These are folks that have unlocked incredible wealth in this country. And our folks, UK folks, and I know all of your all's folks, are scattered throughout our country, right? They're in Houston, they're in Dallas, they're in Sunnyvale, they're in New York. And we're making contacts with those folks in philanthropy every day. And these people we're contacting are incredible. They move quickly today. They want someone in a university that can help them navigate their experience, similar to many healthcare organizations have VIP medicine type navigators. That's largely what that program is focused on, is navigation. And if we're to be successful, I think, in this current campaign that we're in and the campaigns in the future, we will become very joined and very integrated into what we're doing. And I look forward to that, honestly. It's very, very exciting to be part of what Ian, I think, is developing. Some of the concepts that Fletcher, no doubt, shared with you, venture funds and the like. These entrepreneurs are the folks that have the resources, the capacity to change the world. And it's our mission to help them see they can change the world through UK. And that's what we're doing. And we won't do it if we don't work together. So to the extent that was responsive to your question, not just simply.
Yeah, like I said, whatever you want to tell us, that's what we're here to learn.
Well, it's a treat, as I say, to be here. I don't want to dominate, so maybe Jessica could even, and others, James.
So, I mean, I think even, corporations are one thing they've, kind of looked for tech transfer at times, and so as I go out and meet with corporate or corporate foundations, I'm listening in those conversations too. With corporate, there's so many touches at a university. Do they want our students to be interns for them? Do they want students for future employees? Do they want to give a gift? Do they want to do sponsored projects? Do they want to talk technology commercialization? There's so many different touch points that as I have introductory conversations or as I'm developing a relationship with them, I'm listening for cues. And as I'm listening for those cues, it's a matter of, okay, when I go back to Lexington, who do I need to connect them with? Do I need to follow up with Ian and Tanya? Do I need to follow up with career services? Do I need to follow up with a specific college? Who do I need to connect them with? And so as I listen to those cues, I want to connect them because I believe that the stronger relationship we can have with them, whether it's through a sponsored research project or whether it's a technology commercialization, that as they get a stronger relationship with UK, it's going to come back to philanthropy later. The stronger relationship, everybody's going to benefit from it. So how can I help strengthen those relationships? But another way that I've thought of that we've also worked together is last summer I was hiring a new person within my group. And that person was going to be focused on STEM, both research and outreach and education, all areas of STEM, and work in some other areas as well. But we were getting applicants of people that hadn't worked in philanthropy before. So how do I evaluate them in the ability to do the job that we think we need them to do with STEM? They're probably going to spend a lot of time with companies. So one thing I did was got Tanya to serve on my interview panel. And she met with all of our candidates for our Associate Director of Corporate Foundation Relations. And knowing that Tanya, spends a lot of time with companies and conversations, has a good understanding of our philanthropy and alumni departments here, I felt value in having her talk to our candidates and interview them and work together to try to find a great person for the job.
It is always the right answer to include Tanya, okay? James, you actually maybe have some tech transfer function at Tulane now that's a little broader than just the tech transfer.
I don't do tech
Industry engagement and the cheap business. So why don't you tell us from that perspective? I mean, it sounds like that's a little bit of more play in what some of the things Jessica was saying.
Yeah, so I'm the evil for-profit side of what Jessica does. So I have a colleague like her, Christina, who I work with a lot. So we are totally separate from technology transfer. We're totally separate from advancement and development. We sit in our own group where we focus on business development, primarily with a bent towards research and science, but we'll also filter over to other things. And our only job is that relationship, but from the more for-profit side where they expect something in return. Which often then leads to the advancement or development side down the line. So we work really hand in glove with that group. We will market for our tech transfer team. We will bring in collaborations for our sponsored research team. We basically are out as rainmakers and concierges, and then if people are mad at something going too slow or differently than they want, we become a problem solver. And that is our entire role. And it's nice because all we focus on is that relationship, and we don't get bogged down by the MTAs, the licenses, the patents, the things that are really important but steal away all of your time every day, and we're able to just respond quickly because of that.
Okay, great. And Don, I know when we had our phone call, there was this UK Alumni Association event, and you may have already talked about that a little bit, but in the context of how this actually physically works. I mean, again, when I tried to call my alumni association, maybe I'll get to know some of you who are in philanthropy or alumni associations, you probably know better who's in that department at Indiana University than I do. Okay, so would love to be introduced to them if anybody wants to help me out here. So, but Don?
Yes, Karen, during our phone call, we talked about an inaugural event that we put together called the Entrepreneur Showcase, and Jackie's already mentioned that, but I want to delve into it in a little bit more detail because I think it's a model that other schools can really latch onto. Many of you have already heard of the great work that Tanya and Ian do with an event annually called Patent Palooza, where we recognize faculty and researchers who have received patents. And so they come together, they're recognized with their patents, and the president of the university, Eli Capelouto, he's there. So a very positive event. So we said, what could we do then to think about this whole idea of collaboration between startups, our alumni, and even our current students? So how do we bring those different groups together into a single event? Therefore, we had the Entrepreneur Showcase. And so how did we start? Well, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, I had been here for quite a while, so I've built very good connections on campus, and so I reached out to our Office of Undergraduate Research, and I said, we're putting together this Entrepreneur Showcase. I would love to really showcase outstanding student scholars that are doing, hopefully, tech-type research. It doesn't have to be tech, but it could be something very innovative that might turn into something that could be in the tech arena. And so they actually provided 5 incredible students that were so excited to be a part of this because they were able then to get in front of professionals, in front of alumni, in front of others, and really showcase the great work. Because they were a part of the Undergraduate Research Office, they had already received awards and recognition for their work. And their work, the research and work ran the gamut from civil rights to research in Africa to artificial intelligence. And all this stuff sort of to blend together in a really powerful way. So we had our 5 students. We also then had 3 alumni startups. And so they were able to talk about their startup companies. And then we had 3 faculty members. And so it was a great way for us to build a partnership with those different entities that oftentimes don't come together. And I know that we had our current president, Eli Capilouto, there. We also had our vice president for research there. What was really cool, one of our alumni and entrepreneurs that we wanted to recognize, and Jacqui mentioned this earlier, we established the Lee T. Todd Jr. Leadership and Entrepreneurship Award. And so he was a great innovator on campus who helped sort of start a lot of the entrepreneurial ideas. So we thought, we don't want this entrepreneur showcase to be just a one-time thing. We want this to be an annual event. So if we establish this award with President Todd, let him be the first recipient, and then every single year thereafter, someone will get the Lee T. Todd Entrepreneur Leadership Award. And so his family came. It was just an incredible event. It really wasn't too difficult to pull together. And so I really publicly need to thank Jacqui because she did an incredible job of helping pull that together for us, and Ian and Tanya. But it was a great way for us to build our alumni and our students and our tech startups into one really powerful entity.
Okay, now, I'm not sure how some of these questions that we discussed, so again, you know, to the extent that all of you just, you can tell me what you want to tell me after I ask this. But I think the disconnect either between what tech transfer and or commercialization entrepreneurship and either alumni or philanthropy is kind of confusing to me. I mean, I know during, again, our conversation trying to say, what's this panel about? I said, well, you know, first thing a lot of people think is, oh, you're going to try to take my money. That is, you know, the philanthropy people. You're going to try to take my money and do something I'm not sure I approve of. The alumni people are like, again, what? Who? And I'm going, well, yeah, I mean, well, at Indiana University, probably one of our most famous alumni is Mark Cuban. And foundation people would not like it if I tried to reach out to Mark Cuban, okay? But in terms of how this actually physically works, and again, when do you, like Geoffrey, for instance, when do you have an opportunity to get alumni involved and or in terms of philanthropy? I know we've looked at a variety of means to try to reach out to foundations for grants and things like that, but we're never quite sure where we're fitting in, where everyone else is reaching out either to those same people or those same opportunities, so.
Right, I mean, in the big picture, right, I think most of those folks at Tech Transfer can recognize the places, we've heard it earlier, right? Places where alumni can be engaged are obviously marketing opportunities, so there's technologies that they might be interested in. It's assistance, potential assistance, where we aren't necessarily doing all these things, but we're trying to explore them all, right? So marketing and connections for technology opportunities, whether those as startups or as licenses, engagement on the front end in terms of evaluation. So is this an opportunity that's worth exploring? You know, you have alumni that are retired and looking to can give that feedback. Certainly even right now in our venture lab, which is our proof of concept funds, we have entrepreneurs in residence that are alumni. So we are engaging alumni certainly right now there, where we're bringing them in to actually be project managers for that funding and potentially that first CEO of the startup. We're looking for alumni in recognizing that we can't build a startup community with just university technology. There's not enough, not in Cincinnati. What that means then is, where else can we go? Well, for one, with students that are not being funded by the university, but come up with great ideas, for example, out of our design, art, and architecture and planning programs. Particularly in industrial design, we have examples where we have students that have gone on and got funding and started and launched businesses invested by local investment and been successful. We want to see that model continue. So our alumni, we've broadened out our proof of concept fund to go beyond just UC-owned IP. It now covers anybody in the Bearcat family. So that's alumni, current alumni, students, even to a larger extent, we're still fully exploring but the community. We're no longer focused just on that UC IP. Now, what that means and where that fund goes and how that works remains to be seen, but that's certainly something we are trying to make sure we explore because we know we can't do it alone. We need the entire Bearcat community.
Share a few thoughts over on here. You know, wealth is generated, largely in the same ways it was always generated, innovation, etc. But the timing of when we may get at it, or when that wealth's unlocked, has changed pretty rapidly. You used to know who the wealthy folks were, right? I mean, their goal was to build a business, to support their community. Their name was on everything. I mean, I'm sure the folks at Cornell haven't missed Mr. Johnson in Racine, right? I mean, he's in Racine, and we have our sort of older alums. You can't miss them. You know where they are, right? Their goal was to support their community, to build out a group of employees, to build out a family, and then perhaps transition that business to their family, and so on and so forth, right? This environment today is different. We've got all these new words: liquidity events, exit strategy, founders pledge. I mean, we get to use cool words like ecosystems related to business and stuff, right? So a lot of folks today, they want to build a business, they want to sell it real quick, right? In a few years. Everybody wants to be on a 5-year contract, right? And so those folks are harder to find. They don't live in one place and look at multi-generational wealth building. And so the point I like to make is the collaboration between us becomes even more critical, because you guys in tech transfer are working with some of these young folks, or older folks of all ages, and are tracking them from different purposes than we're tracking them. We have data sets that track things that aren't what you're tracking. Consecutive years of giving, right? Well, we have folks that have never given us a dime. They've sold a business we didn't know about it. Now they can give us $1 million. These folks aren't popping up on radars that we're looking at. And so because wealth is generated largely the same way, it's not record stores anymore, it's something else. But the timing of wealth liquidity events is, I think, changed quite a bit, and folks can put their money in a lot of different places that aren't as easy to see. I see some nodding heads. Maybe you all agree, maybe not. But that's what really causes us to focus on collaboration, because timing is so important. If we're there when a business is sold or prior to a business being sold, then there are a lot of tax advantages to doing charity. Knowing someone has wealth, we can begin to cultivate them, engage them. Hard to do that if you don't know them. But then I'm surprised every day that people on this campus, oh yeah, I've been working with Sam for 10 years. He's, or she, sold, 3 businesses. Well, they haven't given to UK, so we're not tracking them. So anyway, I think that's one of the big challenges. And on the other side, major opportunities.
Okay, well, I think that kind of also speaks to the question of networks and building those, and how do we know who we know and what they would be interested in. So, James, how would you approach that kind of issue? Because when the title of this is Push and Pull, and I really like the reference to Stanford this morning. The Stanford Tech Transfer Office is just waiting for alumni or investors to walk around the campus and find something, and investors and alumni are welcome to walk around our campus and do the same thing. Is it happening, James?
They don't just do that. we have the same problem, and so I think the people who are going to be successful at this are the people who are breaking down the walls between advancement or development and then the more business tech transfer, BD side, research side. That's really important. And it's that contact sport. It's being out, meeting them, but also figuring out how you can get them to your campus. We do what we call immersion days, which is similar to kind of the entrepreneurship showcase, but broader. We just call it a research showcase. And we have everyone from basic research to things that are ready to go out to a couple things that are already in companies. And we invite companies, foundations, VCs, alumni, everyone just to come and see it. We call it an open house, and we buy them cocktails, and we do it right before French Quarter Fest, the largest free music festival in New Orleans, so people can come for science and stay for music and food. But you kind of have to figure out what that is. And I know we're lucky in New Orleans because everyone wants to come there. Yeah. It's not hard to convince people.
And they want to
I'm still waiting for Ian and Tanya to visit me. But find what can be special, what's going on in your area that you can get people to come in and visit you. Something else we've done, which got national press and is used not as often as we thought, but we put in an office that was empty, we put a sit-stand desk, a conference table, an iMac, and a printer, and we call it our immersion suite, where companies or VCs can just come sit there, even if they don't have a meeting with us. and some of them have come down for a week and they did like a working staycation in New Orleans. But you know, if you have people who might come in for things and you can just make a space for them where they're in the research building, you can just have lunch with the faculty and those organic things can happen, that can really generate some of those hits.
All right, anyone else want to, yeah, Don, in terms of the networks of alumni and or, you know, tech transfer?
Right, well, I mentioned prior that I have a long tenure here at UK, so obviously that's a natural affinity towards a huge network of graduates and alumni. But also, I didn't mention prior, I've also taught here at UK for 25 years in our College of Communication and Information Studies. And so having that perspective also gave me sort of a connection in a different way to some faculty and folks in that arena. What we've tried to do too in my areas is take that and really establish new networks. And so what's been sort of a spin-off of this, other offices on campus have seen, well, wow, you all are partnering now in new and creative ways. So like with the Office of Technology Commercialization, one office, for example, is the Office for Faculty Advancement, and that's headed up by an engineer, Dr. G.T. Lineberry, who's in our College of Engineering, and he's a faculty member there. But he came to me and said, I've heard about what you're doing with Ian and Tanya. How can you partner with us to really engage faculty in new ways? And so I mentioned earlier in my presentation, too, that I've established a great partnership with the Summit at Fritz Farm. And so I said, what about if we engage faculty at an event at the Summit at Fritz Farm? First, the cost is going to be very reasonable, which he liked. But it's a way for us to get faculty off campus because they wanted to get off campus in a social way. But what we did, too, we thought, how can we be a little bit more strategic? One thing that we're working here on campus is how do we become a more inclusive campus? And so we have established faculty affinity groups across the university. And so we've had 2 events at the Summit at Fritz Farm where we invited faculty affinity groups just to mix and mingle, and they've really loved that. The feedback has been very, very positive. I had a meeting just 2 weeks ago with the Office for Faculty Advancement, and they're already talking about how do we continue this. The faculty feedback was very, very positive because we brought together faculty from across all the different colleges here, including healthcare, and oftentimes they don't get together in a social setting like that. So it's just a way for us to establish a great network.
Okay. Right now, I'd like to ask if anyone in the audience has a question. All of you philanthropy and alumni people, you can ask Geoffrey and myself, and even James, even though he's trying to run away from tech transfer.
I'm broadening the definition.
Coward. Anyway, you know, about how does this work? And, you know, do you have, I mean, I know one of the questions I immediately had was, you know, how can I make my alumni association like me better? You know, that kind of thing. So, any questions? Ian, of course.
So one thing we just heard that resonated with me, Tom talked about these fancy buzzwords that we all get to kind of use, liquidity event, things like that. Well, so certainly tech transfer, we have a number of sort of buzzwords that we think everybody understands, but really it's just a bunch of geeks that do tech transfer and we use these words, like scheme and things like that. But certainly, you know, philanthropy and alumni, you guys have your own sort of, you know, language and words and stuff. And I've actually learned a lot, but I had no idea about the process and how to keep those relationships and alumni networks just through the engagement that we've had. How can universities better do that sort of cross-education piece? Because I think part of the magic here is helping alumni understand what could be needed, what are the opportunities sort of in research and tech advancement and additional testing, clinical testing, de-risking, that type of stuff. And then vice versa, how we help sort of the technology transfer commercialization units better understand your processes. How do we do better cross education?
I think that's probably part of the $2.1 billion question, for sure. Yeah, the state planners have all sorts of acronyms nobody understands, GRATs and CRATs and on and on and on. But yeah, again, that's part of the question. I think we've got to begin to break down the various silos that exist on this campus and others. And I'm encouraged more today about that opportunity than I was even a week ago. I think some of the things that I've heard with Fletcher, who was just in here, and the Baby Capital Group, and some of the others about merge some of our teams together, probably in some structural ways. One thing universities do is that a lot of people have. Do you guys have any turf that you protect on your all's campuses? You guys have turf?
I know.
Not, yeah. There might be a little turf. In fact, my comments might be, somebody might, if you're recording this, might share this with somebody else whose turf might be offended by comments. But it's beginning to know that we're all after the same thing. All the dollars that come in are blue. Jessica and I, the dollars we solicit, we're donor-centered. We ask donors, how do you want to change the world? And where do you want to do it? And that could be through the Arboretum, through education programs for children. That could be women's health initiatives. That could be something in engineering, right? We're sort of agnostic to that, to be quite honest. We want to leverage the most resources we can for the biggest purpose that we can. That's a sort of maybe a monologue too much of a rambling direction for you, but your question gets at the heart of what we're getting at, really, what we're trying to get.
If I can build on that, I mean, it's one of the things I tell my team is that if we're doing our job right, we're creating the next person for you guys to go after, right?
Yeah.
The successes that are out there. I mean, we have a building, Rebishal Hall, named after the guy that invented Benjo. Obviously under different times, but his family is one of the largest donors to the University of Cincinnati. Cincinnati Children's saved it, right? These are names that you hear that we know. And so if we're doing our job right, there's that feeling after the fact and that relationship, even when we decide not to move forward, right? Where we go, we don't agree, but we're getting out of the way, here it is, go. If they're successful and they still have that relationship, hopefully they'll remember that when they succeed when we told them they failed. And they'll come back to the institution and they'll make themselves a chair. Or they'll make a donation somewhere. But that's what I tell my team. Don't forget they're successful, and we've treated them with respect and that relationship internally. They're going to possibly be that person that makes the big donation because they get the science, they get how hard it was, and they've been successful.
Just to get that bolt on, I want to share with you. What's so powerful is that Philanthropy has the power to be a multiplier. We talked about that yet, but it has the power to increase other gifts, to inspire other people. We need to really measure ourselves in impact in a different way, as opposed to sort of this philanthropy ledger going up. But the building we sit in was funded by philanthropy, and I was with our vice president this morning, and he was reminding us all that, and was reminding the president yesterday that because we built a bigger building, our enrollment in the College of Business increased pretty substantially. And guess what that did? That increased tuition. And guess what that's going to do, right? And on and on and on. And these folks, whose names that are on these rooms, they'll give again if we do our jobs right. And those gifts will multiply on and on and on. And it's remarkable what we do. And what you're doing in entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. You guys are dealing in multiples. It's crazy, business goes. It's not like my stock portfolio. Mine sort of ticks like, no, of course it sort of does this, right? But it's, right, these entrepreneurs, man, it's like that. So, pretty cool.
All right, any final words, maybe Jessica or James?
So I think a key thing is communication. So in the past, faculty might not have been as entrepreneurial or as ready to go out and try to launch their product into something else that could build into bigger. They kind of, looked within the walls of their lab, and I'm just trying to make the world a better place. I'm not necessarily looking to make that money and to do startups and those kinds of things. So I think as I meet with faculty and talk to faculty and learn about what they're doing and learn about what their research is, I can, sometimes listen to kind of think, have you talked to Ian's team about this? This might lead into something else. And, have that communication and then follow up with Ian to say, hey, you may want to talk to this person. Maybe you want to be more proactive instead of reactive later with them. But it's also, kind of doing some of the external communication too, that if we have a company or foundation that's given a gift or has done a lot of funding throughout the university, or even just a little bit of funding in the university on the philanthropy level, then looking at if OTC is having conversations with them, just knowing about those gifts or the other relationships they have within the university is important, because if you can acknowledge, hey, we really appreciate what you did in the College of Medicine or what you did in our College of Nursing, it makes us look like we have a united front and that we do know what each other are doing on this campus.
Break
So
down the walls.
communication, I think, is key.
And I just add on that, we often think about the folks like Jessica when you think about advanced leader development, but think about your principal and major gifts people too. Something we do at Tulane is we actually are scientists who can communicate effectively their science in English to people. Find those and bring in your major gifts and your principal gifts. And again, that's the lingo at most places. Your major are the people who do 100,000 to $1 million, and your principal are people who'd be bored if they wrote a check for less than $1 million. Those are great people to know. But we sit our scientists with the people who work those folks and who manage those folks, and they learn about the disease states they're in, because everyone has a family member or friend who's been affected by something, and we're actually getting a lot of gifts into research now, or potentially into the companies that are spinning out because of those relationships where our advancement in philanthropic people know enough of the science to be able to say, oh, you should talk to Dr. Zadina or Dr. McLaughlin or Dr. Marici because you're interested in this space. And they also know these are the scientists who can actually sell the story.
All right, well, first off, I'm going to close this here now so that we can get into the next section and lunch eventually. But I really do want to thank University of Kentucky for taking the lead on this. This is one of the greatest one-day meetings I've been invited to recently. And I keep thinking of all of my Indiana University colleagues who should be here and who aren't. And I would, love to do it again.